Hey, just George Marcus Washington with MTC Media. George Mason, St. Bonaventure. Tonight, the Patriots coming up off of that 62-58 home win against Richmond. But up next, tough road trip to the Bonnies. It's always going to be a tough road trip because they're so well coached and have been a very, very solid program. Then the Bonnies themselves, they're 7-7 overall. They're 1-0 in the A10 with a blowout win at home, 83-64 over UMass. When you look at the keys for George Mason tonight, Ronald Polite must be the leader that he was against Richmond. Beyond his 22-point performance, he was the orchestrator out there for everyone, offense, defense, vocal with his players, vocal with his coach, was a great communicator. That has to continue. Second, the three ball. The Patriots lead the Atlantic 10 in three-point shooting percentage. Why? It's twofold. One, pace. They love pushing the ball up. They can get open threes in transition and secondary transition. They do an excellent job at that. Also, multiple players can hit the three on that team. You're not dependent on 1-2 guys who will shoot that shot. They have 3, 4, sometimes 5 guys who are willing to shoot it. Heck, Duro is willing to step out there and shoot it in a half-court setting. That's what makes George Mason so tough, and they shoot it well. Because you can't load up on a guy, your defense in transition always has to be aware. If you push it in the half court, you always have to be aware of that corner three or the swing out to corner off a kick out that gets to the wing. Those things you always have to keep in mind if you're playing against George Mason. And last but not least, for George Mason, turnovers. They're 13th in the A10 in turnover margin. Some of that is the pace of play. And some of that, I know Kim English is willing to live with. Some of that is just poor decision making. And you see that in spurts in games. You see that in games where they didn't perform well. You saw it when they were in the Virgin Islands for that tournament where they lost 3 straight. I mean, the decision making at times was awful. So keeping those turnovers down and keeping your decision making up. Those are the keys for George Mason tonight as they visit St. Bonaventure. This is Marcus Washington with MTC Media.